505 is the live at 505. It just makes me happy.
Man, that's got to be the name of the stream now. Live at 5:05, and we go live at 5:05.
Live
I
at
love
505 from a hard drive.
From a hard drive, live at 5:05. Yeah, I love that. That's fucking amazing.
Steve Hive live at 5:05 from a hard drive. Oh, yeah, we are live. And my dogs are going nuts because my wife just got home. Liberty Dude says, yo, failure is just one step toward complete success. We'll talk about the failure. Absolute incredible failure of the last video, which kind of surprises me. OG Quasi, how's it going? Liberty Dude. Yeah. Cheers, brother. Yeah. You know what? And Liberty Dude's right. Failure is one step towards complete success. In fact, there's been a lot of conversation around this household about failure, and it's not just about, like, in all parts of life, there's a specific type of growth that you can only get after failure. You have to fail to get specific growth. It sounds like a cop-out for somebody that's failed, but it is 100% not, because there's a humility in success that you only attain through knowing what the knife's edge feels like. What do you agree, Dylan?
Yeah, I don't know. I think the path, the road to success is littered with failures. You have to be, in order to succeed, you have to be like failure tolerant, right? Like rejection and failure have to be something that you're just like, yeah, whatever. If you're really sensitive to failure and rejection, yeah, you're gonna have a hard time when the rubber hits the road. And so, yeah, I think you have to be comfortable with the idea that right now there's something that you're doing wrong. And it's like, all right, who's going to tell me that? Like, I'm learning all kinds of every day. There's something, or I'm like, oh, I thought this is how we would do that. Like, well, we could do it that way, but because it's set up like this, we actually can't. I'm like, well, why is it set up like that? Oh, because, well, it's better for this. I'm like,
OG Quasi, the important thing about failure is learning from it 100%. And this is a big one. Beresford says, greetings from England, not the UK, during the World Cup. Wow. Greetings from the UK. You're watching us instead of the World Cup. That's impressive.
Appreciate
or not
you.
the UK during World Cup. I don't know. Is the World Cup on right now? I'm bad for sports right now. I'm not sports literate at the moment. Greetings from Germany. Hands yellow, heart red.
For you, that's kind of weird because you're usually dialed in a good amount of that.
To a degree, I like hockey.
Your select sports, yeah.
I watch hockey. But it's the first thing to go. So when to borrow an expression, when rubber hits the road, there's, when shit starts hitting the fan, and you've got to get rid of something. Sports is the first thing that kind of gets noped out the door.
It's in that outer circle that when you cinch it back one notch, it gets trimmed off in the fat. Yeah.
Exactly.
Everybody should have that. Some people don't have that. Some people will viscerally hang on to everything. It's like, no. You got to have your scale back list. If you got to scale back the budget, what are you clipping? You got to have that ready to go because you're going to need it at some point.
So speaking of when talking about the failure and being able to confront and sit with and be uncomfortable in the video, and a lot of people are like, it's just failure on some other part. No, it's a failure on reading the room. I was just confused by it because I figured it was right up the alley of a few other things I've talked about, but apparently sample rate differences, not an interest within this group. I would have guessed otherwise. However, if you're curious what your voice sounds like at 6K or 8K, it's actually an interesting little view on what sample rate can do, especially to the higher frequencies.
It is really funny that we're having this conversation this week because there's, again, I got to stay vague for now. It's going to be so nice when there's a project that is currently taking up 16 hours of my day. It is not something that I think I was originally hired for, but it's something that I've still found myself really kind of taking on as one of my children, as it were. and I'm giving it lots of TLC that this product line has never ever had before. And so I'm excited about it, but at the same time, it's been a lot. And I know there's been lots of revealing. So one of the things is in this product, there is processing. Everything in the product is 48K in terms of the internal operating sample rate of any kind of sort of digitally stuff. It's all 48K. But there's one very specific situation where we are actually doing 96K processing in a really funny product. Like this is a product that why? Really why? But because there is a benefit. And we have spectrographs. So the thing is, if you're doing so if you're not doing any kind of nonlinear processing, right? So what do I mean by nonlinear processing? So compression, saturation, anything that's going to like try to affect the dynamic range of your content is effectively nonlinear processing. And so when you have that stuff at a normal sample rate, like 44.1 or 48, that the harmonics that those saturation circuits or models that those generate is obviously double the like we're not going to get into harmonic theory, but they're orders of magnitude steeper. Again, this is why these videos die, because this is what it's about. This is what it's about. This is the problem. And so, but just to finish the thought, when those go and they hit the Nyquist point, which is half the sample rate, they reflect back down because it continues to generate them, and they reflect back down as an alias frequency. And what that comes off to us as is really nasty sounding, garbagey distortion. That's just, I don't know, high frequency heavy, but somehow really brash and thick at the same time, but in a way that doesn't seem to make sense with the waveform that caused it. You know, like it's not related harmonically, like because when it reflects back down, there's these weird intersections, right? Like if you've ever heard beating, if you've ever done like a frequency sweep of a square wave, again, snooze fest. It's fucking snooze fest.
Oh my God.
But so the point is it makes compression, well, a little bit less so compression, but limiting and distortion or saturation or anything that adds in some harmonic enhancement, we'll call it, benefits from 2x and 4x sample rates. And so a lot of really good tools actually will upsample these tools up to whatever that is, and then downsample. So there's a few instances where in this product I'm talking about that we're upsampling in a certain processor to accomplish some saturation, and then we're putting an aliasing filter and downsampling again. Just so that we don't get those weird reflected...
I can confirm. I'm sorry, this is a really bad time. Okay, bye now.
Nice.
Sorry, somebody confirming an appointment.
There is a tangible benefit to higher sample rates. The whole thing of like, well, it reproduces higher frequencies. Obviously, we know humans, at least not consciously, are sensitive to anything above usually like 18, 17 or 18K, best case scenario. So it's like, are you going to benefit from
if you're over the age of 8?
Like, I will say, weirdly enough, though, I was just talking to a DSP guy about this today. I got Adam A7V monitors behind me, audio like speakers, and they have ribbon tweeters. They theoretically go up to, their frequency response is stupid. It goes up to like 40K. And so when you run through, again, a signal path that can support all of that sample or frequency response wise, and then into those, what you do find with it, what I find with it is transients, like really fast snare hits. They just jump right out. And you can really fine tune. I find checking compression on those speakers. Checking high end is dubious because it's a very different high end profile than most other speakers. It's a great profile, but I shouldn't use that as my main reference point if I'm trying to figure out what this is going to sound like on a car stereo. You know, that's not a good reference point. But it's that attack. It's that punchiness that's useful about that 96K shit.
Well, you just jumped on an interesting fact. We're going to cover that in a second. Let's get through some of these comments. Essa Bala Jr. Hey guys, how's it going? Sorry if I really like destroyed your name. I apologize. Uh, Andrew says,
We're
"Hi, I
on
have a Rode
cultured
X
porn.
XDM 100 on the way. Figured a good easy entry for my 11-year-old. That's a nice 11. That's a nice mic for an 11-year-old, and phone, iPad, and PC
Not
compatible.
bad.
Very true.
Yep.
That is a very nice one. One can only fail by not trying. Those that try never fail, and the worst they can do is not as well as they had first desired. The way I look at failure is you never fail until you stop. So
Yeah, well,
the
I was gonna
moment,
say, yeah. A way I've always thought about that is like, if you try, you might succeed.
yeah,
But if you don't try, you will never succeed. Right? That's
exactly.
the same idea.
Yeah, USB on broadcast mic has gone a bit quiet for marketing. What's the new hottest? There is nothing. USB microphones are slowly
That
being
market has
replaced.
dried up.
Yeah, they're slowly being replaced by USB XLR, which I mean, the podcast USB is one of, or the PodMic USB, sorry, is one of them. The Shure MV7 something is also MV7X. I don't know what they call it. There's very little market right now for a straight USB microphone, and I like that. I like that we're no longer in this cash grab moment for everybody's money. Just here, you need a USB microphone. Because you could just buy a USB XLR mic, pay a couple extra bucks, but you get something that you can grow into with the rest of your setup, which I do like. So there's not really much of a new hottest. I would say on the market right now, if you're desperate for a USB microphone, the Rode kind of won with the XDM and XCM series because of the integration with Unify. And is it Unify or Unity? No, it's Unify. That allows you to have a bunch of virtual channels. If you're a gamer, that's just awesome. Anyways, Thylo Grim, do or do not. There is no try. Exactly.
Yep.
Foo's on Film, how you guys doing? We're doing great, buddy.
Yeah, we're hanging in there.
I love this. Do or do not. There is no try. I keep getting those. I like the sample rate video, but it's probably too technical for many.
Yeah,
Steve,
that's it. It's too inside bananas. Like it's just, I don't know. It's
and
that's
this
not
is
his
what
thing.
this is what Dylan and I were talking about earlier this week, where somebody commented, when you're talking about all these different things and why it is, and you start getting into the
There's
weeds.
a layer of this, there's a layer of this that even when I talk to Aiden, that Aiden starts to kind of glaze
Yep.
over and
Yep,
what
absolutely.
because that's kind of how, this is about how digital devices put sound together, right? That's deep. That's in the weeds of it. It's very critical to being a sound engineer to understanding that, but not everybody here needs to be a sound engineer.
No.
And I think there's a lot of people that just want to create content, and you don't need to know any of it. You shouldn't need to know any of it. I think some rudimentary understanding of what sample rate is and why you need to have it the same on everything that you're doing, why that's important. But I think outside of that, it's not critical.
No, and it's also where the math and the audio meet. This is literally where the math and audio, when people say audio is math and math is audio, it's true. But this is where the math of it meets, and the math is not 1 + 1. The math gets relatively complicated. There's a lot of theories, there's a lot of theorems, there's a lot of things moving. And when you're doing a video on a channel and you're trying to make it as accessible for as many people, the line is about a grade 5 level. That is, and that's not an insult to people, but when you're trying to create a consumable, you're trying to make it so anybody can listen, be entertained, get something from it. And when people are like, whoa, you didn't tell all the story. Well, because I'm not doing a video for 5 people.
No, man, I've got friends that and I'm a pretty good explainer. In fact, I've made a career out of being able to, even now, a lot of my job now entails, okay, what stuff does this thing need to be able to do? And then they need somebody to sit and write that out, write out that Bible of what does it need to do, how does it need to do it, and whatever specificity is required, and that's necessary. There's people whose brains are wired for that stuff. All right, I can picture like how waveform, but you know, there's people that if I tried to explain in the most rudimentary way that I know how, which is pretty low level, I can distill things down to some pretty vague analogies that weirdly often work. But like there's concepts and like I can't think of anything in the rest of the world that's analogous to, you know, how audio is put together by a computer, because you have to intrinsically understand how a computer is put together. And
Well,
that's a
and
real
then
hard thing for a lot of people to kind of conceptualize. And so I understand why this stuff isn't popular.
this is an interesting one. I like it, UK. I like this perspective because I battled with this. I like it says, I like the video, the thumbnail, meh. And you're right. The
But
problem
you
I
tried a
ran
bunch.
in, what's that?
You tried a bunch of different ones too, didn't you?
I did. And the problem I ran into is how the fuck do you put that into a thumbnail? You're talking about the differences in sample rates. And the only way I could think to do it was analogous of kind of showing resolution. And that would be the difference between, 48K being full resolution and 6K being pixelated. And
Well,
I
okay.
could
All
not
right.
figure out another way.
So there's something there, right? So okay, so you picture an image which is just a bunch of colored squares. We can, that's easy. We can picture that. It's a grid of squares it's a very tiny grid of colored squares. Good, done. We're not going deeper than that. We could talk about that. We're not going to talk about that. But yeah, colored squares. And then so if you have a certain resolution, they're a certain size. Obviously,
Yep.
if you go larger, they're a smaller size, obviously, unless you have a larger display. But we're assuming the same size display and you change the resolution. If you have really tiny resolution and you have a diagonal line, that diagonal line is going to look like it's not going to be a diagonal line anymore. And so with audio, you get kind of the same problem, but you get it when you try to, add stuff that isn't there in the digital domain. And so, this is poorly implemented saturation. If ever you've used, actually, you know what? A great analogy, if you're using any DAW, I think every DAW, like Audacity probably has something that does this. I don't know what it's called off the top of my head. Excuse me. They're basically like a bit crusher. So they're a processor that allows you to change the bit depth. So it starts usually at like 24-bit, and then you can whittle it back to like 6-bit and listen to like what 6-bit audio would sound like, which is not good. And then you can whittle back the sample rate. And then I know the one in Pro Tools, what the hell is it called? Lo-fi. And the one in Pro Tools, Lo-fi, you can turn off the anti-aliasing filter. So when you reduce the sample rate, you start getting all this crazy digital aliasing shit. And so if you've ever heard like really poorly made like kids toys from the 90s and like that weird like alias distortion that you would hear on the speaker, that's like poorly implemented like sample rate conversion happening somewhere. Like nobody has taken the steps to mitigate aliasing in the digital process. So, but again, all that is very low level. I can't imagine an analogy
other than
the resolution. Like, yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
But how do you conceptualize that in a freaking thumbnail?
And that's the question. Like, I like UK. Like, if you have a better idea, let me know. And this is not like well, I did the best. No, this is literally like me going, hey man, do you know something better? Because I'm listening.
Yeah, man.
And
100%.
yeah, it's one of those things that this is part of the struggle. We need to get through. We are way behind on comments. Outsider Jess, Dylan, Fifine might be the first low profile boom arm I buy. They added RGB to it. How far off? Man. If how far off do you think? Make this as quick as possible. How far off do you think some of the main like Elgato and Rode are to starting to put RGB on their shit? Okay, you don't have. Okay, and moving on.
No. Okay. No. Okay. Okay. So I'm laughing because I'm staring down the barrel of this problem that we're having with a product, and I would like some input from the crowd here on this problem.
Okay. All right. Cool. Hey, this is good.
So we have a product that has a utility light built into the housing of it. That is for a purpose. we're not going to get into that because I'm not giving much away. But we have some lighting. So that lighting through some for I don't know what fucking reason. I was pleasantly shocked when I found this out. But has their RGBW, their RGBW, and so I'm like, well, I mean, obviously we have to make that addressable. Like,
yeah.
And so we have a function where you can change the color of this sort of utility panel light thing on the product, and it's just kind of a secondary thing. But then so we're making another version that's like a different format of this product, but it's in the same family, and I'm like. Well, we have, and I've been telling everybody, this is going to be the second you throw like an assignable, customizable personalization light like that or something like that on a product, that becomes like a massive aesthetic focal point of the product.
Yes.
To the user, it's really funny to the engineers because it's like the most brainless thing to kind of implement. Like it's like, putting a disco ball in a thing basically, but like at the same time, it has pretty high user impact. So I'm like, we have to carry this through the family. And so but I'm like, I don't want to just throw a dumb light somewhere that doesn't have any useful purpose that you can change the color of, because then I feel like we're just like those mics that you can buy on Temu. And I don't want to set that as the standard, right? I don't want to just have a random accent. I want it to be utility focused, but I'm having a hard time.
I'll be curious to see what people say.
That people like? I guess that's the question. That's the like user input. Do you like when products have, like, again, the Rode products, they've got on the like the Rodecaster Duo and the Rodecaster Pro, they've got you can change the channel colors and you can set the headphone colors to different RGB values, and they're all really nicely diffused, and it has this glow, and there's lots of light. There's lots of customizations for the onboard lighting of the unit. It's like a fucking spaceship. You know what actually it reminds me of? It reminds me of like some of the cars now in the modern like Volkswagens. If you like go to the interior lighting, they're like, when you open the door, how light do you want the rear left door to be? I'm like, the fuck? On? How about on? On sounds really good to me. And so like I don't know what layer is ridiculous and what level is actually like this is fun and it's useful, because I think I like fun, right? There's things right now that I'm specking out. It's like, well, this is safe. I'm gonna give a little bit more than safe because some people might want to a little more aggressive.
Well, let's find out. Let us know, guys.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, let us know what you think of like personalization. Like I don't know, in general, like lighting, naming, like naming elements, and like having icons on stuff. I don't know.
Less RGB says I like it UK. If you
like again, I don't want to have. I don't want to have like the rim of the console with like a chasing rainbow. I don't want it to look like a Vegas slot machine.
Yeah.
But like
Rode
at the
RGB
same time,
coming soon.
What?
Rode RGB coming soon.
yeah, that's it. Like when you're talking about a product like a podcast, like I don't want to make something. As much as there's people that would love that, right? But it's like, I don't know, man. Get some light strips. Get some light strips if you want to do that. There's ways.
Okay, crushing these comments again because holy shit, we are still way
crushing it, bud.
Thilo Grimm, as a teacher for audio visual media at an arts university, I appreciate the effort that went into that video. You know what? It's fascinating because a lot of people, and I appreciate the comment, because most people don't understand one of the hardest things to do in this job that I do is trying to relate stuff in that fashion, right? So I had a video about understanding gain, and I'm still struggling, not struggling with it, but I'm struggling with whether or not I want to do it, because gain is very misunderstood. You start getting into a lot of the same factors with gain that don't have to be explained, but also kind of have to be explained. So there's a lot of things that I don't think people appreciate when it comes to doing these videos that goes into just not even dumbing them down, but making them consumable by everyone. Anyways, I appreciate the compliment because that's good. I love this. Outsider Jess says, I think the funny part was that Aiden forgot about YouTube compression, so there was differences. We would barely hear it. At the end of the video, I said, I've been switching between 96K and 48. Tell me how many times I did it in the comments, and nobody took the bait because I didn't change. But somebody did helpfully point out that the sample rate is basically all crushed down to 44.1 for AAC audio and 48K for everything else. So
which is fine because again,
Yeah.
any kind of non-linear generation is all happening before that, and so when that sample rate conversion happens, they apply automatically an anti-aliasing filter when they strip it down. So anything that might get reflected back down when you Nyquist the fuck out of it is rolled off. And so obviously you still get the benefits of working in 2x or 4x sample rates, even if it gets stripped down at the output.
I was really hoping for some Chad to walk into the chat and go, I heard you changed the sample rate 6 times. Bite me. That's what I was waiting for, but it didn't happen. I was very sad about that.
And it's funny. I had this conversation with a very intelligent mathematician who is one of our DSP engineers, who is super full of hatred for high sample rate processing, because from a efficient computation standpoint, it is horrendous. But we had a conversation. He's like, what do you think and I could tell he went into this conversation prepared to be combative. And then I brought up the nonlinear side. He was like, okay, yeah, no, that's right. Okay. All right. I'm like, yeah, I know. And so, yeah, they're in certain contexts, there is a benefit to doing digital processing at sample rates above 48K.
Yeah.
It's a tangible benefit.
This is one. Andrew says, Aiden, does your shotgun mic have a cover on it to hide the prototype extension shotgun extension feature that made Dylan excited a few weeks ago? No, sadly. This is just an NTG5 that I borrowed from Dylan, and I put the cover on it just for any.
Give it back.
I'm going to. This is the in case you're wondering, the pistol grip that goes along with it. I keep this on just for. Sorry for the ASMR.
It's funny. He gives me back the shit that I don't need, like fucking immediately, like the next day, and then the stuff that I'm like, hey man, I would love to have that back. You're like, yeah, I like having it. Have you even sent one yet?
I've got 3 videos that this microphone's appearing in, and one has to be finished, and then you can have it back. I promise. But yeah,
I don't actually need it. I just want it back. So
horrible friend. I get it. No, and also I'm trying to get one from Rode. Maybe I'll just give you the new one when it comes. The USB XLR and USB wireless or USB XLR wireless mics. Everything's getting complicated now. There's a lot of different types of mics. Foos on Films. Looking for a bag or backpack that would be able to hold a Rodecaster Pro 2, 4 mics, 2 cameras, and 2 stands.
Holy fuck, that's a hiker backpack, man.
This Rode backpack is actually surprisingly good at that. I bring this everywhere I go. As for 2 cameras, I know it fits 1 camera, so 1 camera, 1 lens. That being my Sony A7C II, as well as the 20 millimeter that I still travel with. Long story on that. I'll talk in a second. But fitting a second camera in might be a little tough with the 4 mics. But if the microphones are relatively small, if you're not doing 5 SM7Bs, yeah, it'll all fit into this bag. Otherwise, you're probably going to have to start to split bags. There's not a lot of great audio gear bags that also work with stuff like a Rodecaster Pro 2.
I was gonna say at that point you're probably gonna end up getting like a Gator rollerboard style thing where it's like got a handle and you know it's wheels and it's made of wood. Maybe not made of wood. Maybe you probably get away with a plastic one for something like that because it's not a ton of weight. It's just a lot of things, and then custom cut foam. I think at a certain point, I've had a hard time over the years. Like even Aiden, you and I, when we were at NAB, we took a look at some wearable apparel kind of backpacks and bags and stuff, and I wasn't fully sold on any of the designs.
Nope, there was nothing that made me put the Rode backpack down.
I'm so fussy about bags, which is funny because most of my life I've had terrible freaking bags. Now I've got this one kind of black backpack that's got a lot of pockets. It's open right now, so it's a little saggy. But this one's quite good. This is my travel lifeline. This thing goes everywhere with me.
Yeah, the Mackie backpack wasn't bad. I just feel like for audio gear right now, and like I was at NAB too, and I tried out all the bags. I was willing to drop $300 on a bag, and nothing there would have replaced my road bag whatsoever. So
yeah, like I like the aesthetic of this bag, right? It's got a nice handle. I think the handle is kind of my favorite aesthetic, and it feeds into the appeal of it. Obviously, it fits the RCP2 like a glove because it's pretty much made for that. But also, I've just found in general, it is a good utility bag to just kind of like, all right, I need like a second backpack to pack a bunch of shit in.
Yeah, and if I have to take my camera anywhere, that's the bag I'm packing, just because it's got those little pockets.
What else realistically could you fit in here? So let's have
basically anything. When you open up the main compartment,
so we got like the RCP, we got the white RCP2, a little unbox therapy session here, and then I got the power supply on the bottom, but that could go somewhere else. And then there's a pocket here that you probably put a MacBook. I think that's what it's made for.
Yep. Oh no, that's the back. You can put the
that's right. There's a back zipper. Yeah. So but you can put documents or my phone, anything in there.
iPad.
Really. It's got a pocket in the one pocket, two pockets, one pocket. Yeah, one pocket. One pocket in the front. Big pocket though. Or actually, that's a big pocket.
That's where I put my camera in that front thing.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say there's lots of like I don't know. This isn't a sales.
Good.
This is an impromptu like review. So yeah, there's these pockets here. There's like 4 of them. There's 2 down low and there's 2 up high, and so you can put little batteries, right? I put batteries in there.
I put my lens and camera in those.
Yeah. The fuck is that? What? Yeah. There's a little. Oh, so there's like okay. I guess that's for SD cards. So there's there's this little gray little pouch here, and I was like, what the fuck? And so it's just this tiny little. Like
I never saw that before.
Material. Yeah, so I think that's for.
I never saw that before. What the hell?
Yeah, I didn't either. I've had this for a while. I've had this for a year. I think this bag. No, that's interesting.
Holy shit!
Okay, that is kind of cool. I'm not gonna lie. All right, nice. Well
I
done.
didn't even notice that. What the hell?
I don't know if that's for SD cards. I'm assuming, but that's what my brain tells me, which is probably a good test.
I've been running this thing since day one. Like you can fit boom arms on the side.
I haven't been using it very much, honestly. Well, because for me, it's become the home base. So this is like, I don't know, if somebody was like, I need to record a podcast now. I'm like, hey, and I've got my podcast rig in a bag, basically. But that doesn't happen ever. So I don't use it very much.
Your one superhero skill nobody uses.
Oh, yeah, and there's a shitload of space. You could probably fit a 17-inch laptop back here. Don't quote me on that, but it's pretty freaking. There's a ton of space. And then
I get my 15 in there, no problem.
Yeah, for me, I've got my laptop, which I put in like the inner portion, and then I've got my iPad, which I put in like the laptop pouch. Yeah. I wouldn't mind like an extra little hidden pocket on the back, like a quick zip kind of thing too. That
or in the front, key pocket,
a little road insignia in the back. That's a nice touch, of course. Yeah. And it's comfortable. The straps are really nice. The handle is really comfortable to carry around.
What I would say is what Liberty Dude said looks like a question for B&H or Sweetwater personnel. Yeah, they'll know the market for bags.
Well, again, that's a huge kind of profit area is accessories like that. So that these companies definitely want you to accessorize if you want to. So they'll help you. They'll definitely help you.
Dime Bags in the house. How's it going, buddy?
What up?
I'm not editing any podcasts, so I had to say that I participate in your show most weeks as my excuse to get into your new Rode Studio beta. Don't usually name drop, but I got to keep up with your topics.
Okay. So I have something really funny. So I cannot get anybody on the beta. Don't ask me. I'm not involved. That is
maybe me.
What?
Maybe me, because I haven't even gotten an email on it.
Because you think you're already on the thing because Alex, right, and all of that.
Yeah.
So I think you're already on like a general kind of a list for that. But it's a totally separate process that we've actually farmed out to an external company specifically so that it's not biased. And so I don't have as much line of sight. But I can tell you this. In the beta, there is going to be a podcast. It will be like a test podcast. That is, will kind of, there will be some stumbles in it, and I am the voice of that test podcast. This is something. It's just funny. This morning, the folks in charge of that development. And again, I've been working heavily on the Rodecaster Studio project. We've been very much in the weeds. We had a whole conversation this morning. You would not believe how complicated speech is. Human speech, our way of synthesizing and blending sounds together and morphing sounds into each other, like with the physics of our mouth, right? There is a reason why AI and also how our brain makes decisions tonally. I've made the argument before that Asian languages are easier to reproduce in text because the tonality is tied to the word, whereas in our language, the tonality is tied to the sentence.
And the emotion.
And every sentence is different. And when you regenerate part of a sentence, you need to infer how that would change if they said it. That is really fucking hard. Okay. These are things that because you need test. Anyway, we're working through stuff. But this morning, you're like, oh yeah, we have like a test podcast. I'm like, okay. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting there, it's like, and they're like, and we have some stuff, like we kind of have like a template that we've like written out. I'm like, okay. and in my head, I'm like, are you going to ask me to source one? And then they're like, and we need someone to kind of to like voice it. I'm like, oh, okay. All right. All right. When do you need it by? And they're like, Monday. I'm like, perfect.
If you want a 2-person podcast, I'll jump in. Don't worry.
No. And so I don't know anybody here or who is in or who gets whatever the email about that and whatnot. And again, just for anybody around, I know somebody earlier had brought up wanting to get in on that here. I again, it's totally cut off from us. And that's for, again, research integrity reasons. So, yeah, we don't have insight. It's a black box. So we get kind of information back. It is collated a certain way that's very objective and kind of shows us what the most potent themes were in the feedback and all of this shit. So there's lots of people on lots of lists. You might be able to reach out to somebody within Rode on the marketing side. I don't have an email for you. I don't have any contact info, so don't ask me.
I don't even have an email for you. Yeah.
But the beta, for those that are in the beta will be soon. I could say I'm not going to give an exact date, but it will be soon.
I can't wait. I want to get in on that. Yep. I like UK says, are you going to create the bit depth video after this last death of the video?
Oh my God, no, dude, no, that's worse, dude.
No,
that's
I'm not going to do. I'm not going to do bit depth. I was thinking about doing bit rate, because it's a little less ridiculous on the math and the concepts that you have to explain. Bit rate is a lot easier, but
you know what
probably not for a bit.
It's harder because I don't know that people consciously perceive. Well, it's not that I don't know. I know that we don't consciously perceive differences in amplitude with the same granularity that we perceive differences in pitch. Right. And because that's when you're talking about sample rate, you're talking about pitch variation, generally speaking. You're talking about stuff that has to do with frequencies, which is pitch related things. When you're talking about bit depth, you're talking about differences in amplitude. And that's hard. You know what I found? Just, I don't know, a note on that this week, I realized, and I've always known this, but this was a dimension of this that I hadn't realized before this week, is I have a hard time perceiving finite changes in amplitude at high volume levels. Like when I say high, I don't mean ear bleeding volume levels. I mean, like if my monitors are too hot or my headphones, like if I'm like sometimes I'll be mixing and then after I'm finished mixing, I'll vibe with it for a bit. Right. And you get really fucking into it. Yeah. But when I'm doing that, I find it hard to notice things. Then when I bring the volume back down into kind of a more acceptable range, I'm like, okay, now I can perceive like 0.1 dB differences. Like
Yeah.
now I can perceive subtle volume differences where it's like you're at loud volumes, and this makes sense because psychoacoustically, this is what's happening. At loud volumes, your brain kind of does a natural compression, like it adapts
Yep.
to volume changes, and you kind of average that out in your head, and there's sensitivity adjustments that kind of happen in real time. And so I don't know, it's something to be wary of when you're mixing or editing anything is the volume that you're monitoring at. Very important.
Andrew says, how much research is required to design a dead cat for a microphone? It depends on the breed of cat that you start with.
I don't think much. Somebody at Rode is going to spank me for saying that, but I don't think there's a lot there. I mean, ultimately, what you're trying to do is you're trying to like sort of like DC offset filtering in a sense. You're trying to weed out really low frequency stuff that's moving. Like I know I found. Have you gone outside on a windy day yet and used the NTG5 with the blimp and the dead wombat?
Not yet.
Because that, honest to God, dude, I was outside and like, and again, we're 12
You didn't
stories
give me
up
the
right now.
wombat, by the way.
I thought I did. I think you didn't want it. I offered it to you, and you were like,
it was too much. I still have the
Yeah,
blimp,
yeah.
and the blimp is cool.
But I wanted to give it to you just so that if you had some time to kill at some point and wanted to burn some energy, you could go outside with the whole rig, because it's well, even honestly, just with the blimp alone, the wind rejection, a lot of that is just diffusing that kind of that energy, and so there's different physics that come into play there. So and so when you talk about a dead cat, it depends what you're talking about. If you're talking about like a chunk of like a cylinder of foam, like what comes stock with most shotgun mics, like the MKH, there's a little bit of research into like, okay, what foam density, what kind of foam material do you use that's acoustically transparent, or that's as acoustically transparent as it can be within a certain frequency range. And then, how heavy is it? That's a mild consideration just off the top of my head. But other than that, there's not a lot there. It should look nice. I think that's a lot of it, is just design it, give it a nice shape to it.
It's funny.
I think the MKH has a little bit of a trapezoidal like taper.
Yeah, you talk about how heavy it is, and in the video for the NTG5, I actually go into, I've got a whole chapter on the mathematical formula to figure out how heavy something is over distance. So it's weight times distance gets you the weight of something. Like 1 pound at 10 feet is 100 pounds. Is it? Well, no, 10 pounds at 10 feet is 10 pounds. 1 pound at 10 feet is 10 pounds. 10 pounds at 10 feet is 100 pounds. And I went into that for the reason of when you talk about how this microphone only weighs 76 grams. And the last time I talked about that, somebody was like, who cares? And I'm like, well, when you put something on the end of a boom pole and it's only 76 grams, that's, I think I did all the math in the video.
Did I give you the boom pole? Did you take the pole at least?
Yeah, I got the pole.
Okay, when you've got that thing fully extended at like 10, well, how long is that? It's like 10 or 12 feet long.
Figured it was about 10. So I've got it here.
It's definitely, you can't stand it up in a normal, like it's diagonal. It's the only way that, like in my case, I had it pretty much on my ceiling, and it was leaning like out of my kitchen. It's crazy how long this freaking boom pole is.
Yeah.
But the boom pole also is light. Like, and this is portable stuff. Like you can imagine there's people doing reality TV shows like Survivor. I talked to a guy about a product in this kind of space back in February who he does the sound. He's one of the sound ops on Survivor. And so he's running around with a field recorder strapped to his side. And then he's holding this boom pole. He's holding this boom pole for sometimes like 6 to 7 hours at a time. Maybe not that much. They have breaks, but like a long, like sometimes at least I would imagine like an hour at a time, walking around with this pole. And you have ways of making it easier on yourself and stuff. But so weight is kind of critical.
Yeah. And it's so I went into that because I think it was on the shotgun mic from Deity, where I was talking about the weight of it. And that's one of the big selling features on it is this thing's super light. And people are like, who cares? And it's like, actually, there's a lot of people who hold poles over their head like this that actually care.
Yeah,
Um,
no. Well, this is it. Like there's some people that, and this doesn't just go for audio. This is just in life in general. There's some people that have no perspective. Their entire vantage point of the planet is like a single image from a certain angle that's just frozen like that. There's no alternate vantage point that they can understand because they're like, well, like that doesn't make sense to me. It's like it makes sense to some people, makes sense to a lot of people, actually, evidently. Um, there's there's a lot of people that come to me. Like there was somebody that came to me once and they said, I don't understand the point of a phaser. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, I don't know, it just doesn't sound good. I don't like the purpose of it. I don't see the point of a phaser. It sounds stupid. I'm like, good for you. Peter Frampton doesn't think so, and he's got a lot more money in his bank account than you do.
yeah, no kidding.
Noted. Who cares? Who cares?
I like you. Kay says I'm a techie and love the detail and math, but it's not worth creating a video for me and 4 others. Yeah, you know what I mean. It's
you're trying to make a digestible piece of something.
Yeah, it's a fine line because, you know, when I look at something like when came up with the idea of doing the sample rate video, is because, you know, you get a lot of questions. Why 44.1? Why 48K? Why this? But then I can just do a short on 48 versus 44.1.
Yeah, I was going to say you got to almost break it up into two things. You got to break it up into what sample rate is. Like, let's not talk about why higher rates are important. That's level 5. Like, let's talk about level 1, which is how do we use on off to create an audio signal? Let's talk about that and then try to wrap our head around that. And I think there's some analogies there. Again, I've seen the pixelated image analogy is a really good one, you know, and it seems to resonate because people can see it, right? So it's a visual thing. People are visually oriented. And then, level 2 is, all right, now that you know what it is, let's talk about why higher sample rates can be useful. And so part of what it is why of 44.1, and we're not going to talk about it here, but why is 44, why is it that number? And why is 48 that number? What do those numbers mean? Where does that come from? And so you talk about that in the intro video. And then the second video, that should be a good enough primer to, okay, let's talk about why 96 or 192 is not horseshit.
The farthest I broke it down was discrete time versus continuous time. That was the furthest I took it when I started describing what sample rate was, because I figured if I went too much further, I'd be in the weeds.
You got bite-sized pieces. You got to do that.
And like pieces. But it's also little stuff like that. Like, I love the concept of what is discrete time versus continuous time.
Honestly, to put it in perspective, if you're going to get a degree in electrical engineering and you're taking a lot of audio specific courses, there's an entire university course dedicated to sample rate discussion of digital sampling rates. Okay. So if you don't understand it in a 5-minute or 10-minute or 15-minute video, don't feel bad. It is a deep subject that there is ongoing discussion and debate over, like, regularly amongst the scientific community.
I think there's a reason there's only 15 people watching this right now, but Bulls Promo TV
and
says...
that's all me, because that's my fault.
Bulls Promo TV says, well, they are making this video for 12. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
But it's also like, I feel like there's a massive divide in this world. I like teaching. I like to be able to...
I like UK.
But I like teaching people concepts at different levels. And there used to be this YouTube channel where you would teach a subject. You'd have a professional sit down with a kid that's in kindergarten. They would sit down with somebody that's in middle school, someone in high school, someone in university, and someone that's at the professional level, and explain a specific subject to them. So let's explain nuclear reaction to a kid that is in kindergarten versus how you explain it to somebody. But it's really cool to see a professional actually be able to break this stuff down. And to me, I love the concept of that when I try to put it into this channel. And, you know, when you talk about doing content like this, you have to have some inspiration for doing the content. And part of my inspiration kind of comes from stuff like that and seeing how that stuff has been done. So, yeah, I mean, sometimes you do a video for 12 people, and I have a feeling that sample rate video is just going to be done. And maybe in a year or something, it'll pick up and a bunch of people are going to watch it. I don't really care. If I can figure out a better thumbnail, maybe it'll happen, but we'll see. But
Again, I
yeah,
don't know. I think
it's
that's one of those things where, if somebody in your that your content has touched in terms of had an impact or impression on, right, you're in people's forefront of their brain. Like, again, we met that guy at NAB last year, your favorite documentarian.
no, yeah. I
Yeah,
always forget
like,
his freaking
again,
name.
like, if that guy ever got to the point in his career where he's like, man, I really want to wrap my head around digital audio, and like, what is AES 60 set, or what is AES 3? Why would I use that in connecting to something instead of just like analog? Like, what's the difference? How does it work? What's the thing? His first thought would probably be, I'm going to go to A's channel and see if he did a video on sample rates.
Yep.
And I think for a lot of it, it's that you're going to see that trickling coming in, which is a lot of people that just kind of stumble upon it, that want to learn about it. But it's not like, I don't know, like a super top level. I mean, obviously, if it is searchable, right? If people search for
Yep.
what sample rate is, yeah, that's an
It's right
important
there.
thing to know.
I even have videos from way back where I break down.
And again, I will say
compression,
there's lots of ignorant, overly pragmatic opinions on sample rate. That we need to set the record straight. Yes, there is also a lot of fucking snake oil around sample rate.
Oh my God,
and
right?
and the benefits, like, again, Antelope Audio putting out an interface that does 384 kilohertz. Okay, I think 4x was good. 8x, you're gonna have to draw that one out for me. Like, what? Again, 2x, almost all, like, again, we looked at spectrograms of sweeps going through different harmonic generators. Again, this is inside shit. Well, okay, at 2x, almost all of the aliasing was gone. So any of the reflections, when you see them in the painting of the audio, the visual painting that it makes, the spectrogram, they're gone. They're not there. 4x, holy shit, yeah, all right. There's zero chance. The reflections start like 3 times higher than the human hearing range. you're never gonna hear them. But that's how do you. The way I think about it, Aiden, is I think about it kind of like fractions, right? Like, there's crazy fractions that you see, and remember in school you brought them back, how like whatever, like 2/5 or 2/5 is the same as 4/10, right?
Yep.
And you pair it back to the simplest kind of most baseline representation. I see this done a lot in networking theory, like for computer networking, when they're trying to explain different kind of topologies for a network to somebody that's new to networking. Like, you'll see this in the Dante certifications, where they're trying to paint a picture of like a network of devices to you, and they use analogies and some interesting kind of visuals of really weird, obscure things that somehow, like, okay, all right, yeah, no, that's a good way of describing that. That's somewhat universal. But again, it depends what audience you're trying to hit. What level of technical understanding are you trying to hit? Because if I'm trying to teach you how to use an app versus my grandma how to use an app, I'm going to use totally different strategies.
Jess says, God, now I remember why I used to guess answers in maths and science class. Someone needs to break it down for me. Yeah, you know what?
And that's it, right? There's a lot of people that just hate fucking numbers. I get that. There's certain depth I can't go to with numbers. My brain just cannot compute. I need computers to help me compute that level of math. But I understand it in its core sense of, like, numbers. But I understand that there's, like, I got lots of people in my life that struggle with math, and that's cool, man. It's just one of those skills that some people have, and some, I don't know.
I grew up struggling with math, and let me tell you, Jess, it's not your problem. So, as somebody who has taught in schools, it's not the fault of the student for not understanding the content. It is the fault of the teacher for not teaching the content properly for everybody. Because there are kids. I went on to teach myself a lot of math, a lot of science, and all that stuff, because I found people that were able to break it down for me. And like this is something that we are just coming around to as a society in understanding that not everybody learns everything the same way. So why are we teaching it the same way to everybody?
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's never on you that you needed somebody to break it down for you. That's the point of a teacher. That's the point of somebody that is capable of breaking
Yeah,
something
and
down for
I don't
you.
know. I find it helpful, and this is why, like, I think we're not, even more people are going to drop off. The problem with the public education system is it's volume based.
Oh shit, here
It,
we go.
it, no, it's volume based, and really every person is going to have a slightly different approach. And so, I think, and this is something I know when I was talking with the powers that be, some very important, rich, powerful people, at one point earlier this year. We talked about AI's benefits in education. Because I'll tell you, I hate generative AI. I think it's a bit of a blight on the planet right now for a lot of things. Resource consumption is the big one.
Yep.
But we're not going to get into that. But looking at, like, whenever I am having a hard time grasping a concept, I will go into an AI, like an LLM, and I will be like, hey, explain this to me like I am stupid, quote unquote, or explain this to me like I am 4 years old. And it is surprisingly good at doing that and
Yep.
finding analogies and distilling, again, that lowest common denominator kind of concept of, like, all right, pare it down to its essences and then build it back up for me in a way that makes sense. And it's very effective. And the thing is it can kind of infer from things you've already asked it, like what resonates to your brain. And so the fact that you can do that, like, on a per person basis, to me, that's a pretty incredible idea. Because yeah, the problem is teachers can't, we don't have resource for teachers are stressed out enough already trying to create different lesson plans for different kids. And it's like that shouldn't be, that's too much.
So
trying to come up with 35 concurrent ways of describing something to a whole room of people. It's like, why don't you, we can augment this process a little bit with some technology. So I know.
you started talking and we had 18 people. We now have 12, just so you know.
Yeah, that's my fault. I said it. I said it though, right? I knew it. I said it.
All right, let's
We got
cut
a
through.
33% reduction. There's some math for you.
Let's cut through a few of the comments before we get out of here. Andrew says maybe MEMS mics might be the death of boom poles, as you can hide the mic close to the source and it's waterproof. There is actually a very good chance that MEMS mics might be taking over.
I'm not. We're not. Dude,
Nope,
you don't want to
no.
lose more people. Don't talk about MEMS mics.
No. But I will say, like, little tiny microphones, you will find that they're as the.
Just to be clear, I
We're
find
getting
that MEMS mics are super cool, but they're not palatable to the masses
No.
in terms of, like, trying to wrap your head around. Like, again, you have to know how a computer processor is made. How many people in the planet can wrap their head around that? It's a very small number.
Even I struggle with that, to be fair.
I understand it in concept. I don't understand it in practice.
No.
You know.
Ian says, I'm nowhere near the tech level. Love to get some of how it works at a stumble in level. Yeah, and that's kind of what I mean. There's an expression that I teach in podcasting is there's, to create content, you need two things. You either need to inform or you need to entertain. And if you can do both, you will win.
Yeah, well, yeah, both always should be. Well, especially something like this, like what you're doing here, it needs to be both.
Yes, but even like, I've watched YouTube videos that strictly inform. There's been no entertainment value, and it was good for what it was. And then I've watched shit that was just entertainment with no information in it, and that's also good for what it was. But if you can do both,
people almost watched me, like, throw somebody's name, and I was like, nope, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna start shit. I'm not starting shit. Nope.
Foos says, I think for me it started with editing videos for pro wrestling highlights. You have to make the wrestling moves go with the beat, and now it's audio podcast, which sounds good, what doesn't. Yeah, that's where a lot of people start, actually, is editing to the beat. It's one of the simplest forms of editing, but once know how to do that.
Do you remember we had a teacher in college, Mike Irvin, who I then worked for a little bit and worked with for a little bit. He made us do that. That was like one of the first exercises in a production class for broadcast, was like editing music. Like, yep. Hey, make this 30 seconds long. So, okay, I got to find the beat. I got to there. And it's the most. It's after a while, I kind of enjoy actually. Whenever I made commercials, right in my radio career, I made tens of thousands of commercials. And my kind of favorite, like, of the monotonous things you had to do making commercials was editing the music. It was the one thing I got some intrinsic like satisfaction out of doing because it involved listening to music.
Well, it's also, if you can do it properly, you can't hear a difference. And
and that's so
cool.
satisfying too. When you like put that little mini crossfade there, just a little, and then you go, and it's like it was born that way. You're like, oh yeah, baby, that's what you do. Fuck, I love that. So satisfying.
Andrew, I'll answer this one. As Dylan is in the beta, I have a question. How hard is it to test when you are familiar with a voice versus not familiar? It doesn't matter because human speech, depending on, this is regional.
Well, okay, and so you will be able to, I'm assuming, maybe I shouldn't say that. No.
Don't say it if you don't think so.
I was gonna say you will be able to import audio. I don't know if you will be. Obviously, in the version of the app that will be in production, as it were. Of course, you'll be able to import. That's the whole point. But in the beta, I don't know if that's a facility that is open for whatever server kind of traffic processing reasons. But there's a lot as you open the floodgates, man. Fuck, you better have good data flow on those servers because you're gonna be getting a lot of shit. You're gonna be getting people uploading like hour-long WAV files.
but for human voices, regionally specific, outside of lisps or outside of any like barrier to speaking that some people do have, there is no a familiar voice won't be easier to edit.
This is what I'm trying to figure out, man. This is we had a whole conversation about not the units of language. I don't give a shit about the units of language. I give a shit about the units of speech. I care about phonetics. I care about sounds. And the reality is yes, there are some different sounds, like the French language, for example. We're Canadians, it seems topical. The French language has some sounds, lots of sounds actually, that English does not have. And so when you're trying to learn the French language, there's some sounds, like there's the EN sound, It's in the back of the throat. It's weird.
Yep.
And it's not in English anywhere. So you have to learn that sound. And I just did it terribly. But that stuff, looking at how language is strung together in terms of the collections of sounds that make up the words that make up phrases, that is pretty universal, actually, because it has to do with how our mouth works. And everybody's mouth works the same.
There's one language that you can't actually learn as a grown-up. You have to grow up learning it. I forget the name.
Yeah, with the mother tongue. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that the problem with that is your brain. And so this is a good thing. If you are about to have a baby, right? Anybody here that's about to have a kid, if anybody knows somebody that's about to have a kid, if you want your kid to have perfect pitch, there is a pretty solid, 99% success rate method to do that. And that is play lots of tonally varied music when the kid is between 0 and 6 months old.
Yeah.
When you are growing up, and this is interesting fact, we're going to lose more people, but in Asian countries, there's lots of Asian countries where the percentage of the population that has perfect pitch is higher than North America. Is that inherently because people are smarter or dumber? No, it has nothing to do with any of that. It has to do with a lot of Asian languages are tonally based. And so in that first 6 month period, the brain locks onto pitch as a function of language. And so that is the diagnosed reason. And so if you play lots of, it doesn't have to be jazz, classical music. If you play, in my case, my parents listened to like some country music and some like the Eagles and stuff that was maybe not like super complex musically, but had lots of harmonic flourish to it, right? Lots of harmonies, lots of thick harmonies on stuff, and emotional sounding things that obviously it's something like I have perfect pitch. I can identify a pitch without needing a reference, and that's the definition of perfect pitch. And so I don't know. It's your brain figures that out early on, and so to Aiden's point, there's some languages that there's functions of those languages that if you don't hear them in that first 4 to 6 month window, you're never going to pick up the language because that's just something your brain has not flagged as a part of language.
Now, before we lose any more viewers, I think that's it.
I
do want to point out we're at 15 now, so we gained some and lost a couple more.
16. All right.
You did
not
good.
Bad.
Just so you know, this is a new lens. I've got a 50 millimeter f1.4. Something I'm learning is the background of my videos don't really make much sense anymore because it's closer cropped. But let me know what you think. Do you guys like the view? I needed something a little bit more.
He loves his glass, man.
I do love my glass.
I want to point out, so right now I've got a fan that is blowing air directly at me because in this room it is 34C, which what is that, like 95? No, not maybe 90 something Fahrenheit.
Yeah, that's up there.
It's pretty brutal. I need some air movement. And so I got that. I got a dehumidifier like 3 feet from the mic. And then I've got another fan that's on the other side of the dehumidifier. So this room is just filled with motors whirring away and air flying around a wind tunnel. So apparently the noise isn't that bad.
No, it's not that bad at all, actually. Surprisingly.
And so I just, that is an MKH 416 going into, there's a gate on this, but it's very mild, actually. Well, the issue is I'm not going through that much compression. That's what's kind of saving us.
Yeah. All right, guys, we're going to call it for this week. Have yourselves a great week. And we'll see you next week. Most likely. I don't see anything getting in the way, but you never know.
Yeah, me as well. Catch you next week.